Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something really thought-provoking, actually. It was sent in by a listener. They've called it human literacy, but, they were very clear. It's something way, way beyond just like reading and writing.
Right. And the source material we're working with for this deep dive is, well, it's pretty unique. We're exploring this whole expanded idea of human literacy, but through the perspective of an AI. So it's an analysis from an artificial intelligence about a concept that feels fundamentally human.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really dig into this AI's viewpoint on human literacy. We want to understand its massive scope, how it actually shows up in your life, the listener's life, and the world around us, and also how AI itself kind of fits into this whole picture. Get ready, honestly, because this might just make you think about what it means to be human in a completely new way.
Yeah, straight away, the AI's analysis really goes beyond the dictionary definition of literacy. It talks about human literacy not as, a skill you learn like reading, but something much deeper, an innate human capacity. Think of it more like our built-in drive for understanding things, for empathy, for connection, and that constant search for meaning. The AI sees this capacity as underpinning pretty much everything, from creating complex art or grappling with ethics, right down to our basic survival instincts.
So it's less about processing words on a page and more like the fundamental human operating system. Is that a fair way to put it?
That's a great way to think about it. Precisely. The core phenomenon, as the AI identifies it, is this dynamic process of conscious meaning-making. And crucially, the continuous evolution of how humans understand and interact with reality itself.
Oh, okay. Let's translate that a bit. What does that mean for you and me, just day to day? It's basically our inherent drive to make sense of the world, to figure ourselves out, other people, our surroundings.
Yes, exactly. It's how we instinctively, naturally construct narratives, how we build belief systems, how we create these internal frameworks that, help us navigate the sheer complexity of life. And it's also how we translate that internal world outwards, expressing ourselves through language, art, technology, everything we create, really.
And you said it's not fixed. This literacy is constantly shifting, growing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The AI really emphasizes that it's dynamic. It's always evolving based on every new experience you have, every discovery humanity makes, every shift in society. It's this fascinating interplay between your individual understanding and, the vast collective understanding of all humanity stretching back through history.
So it covers synthesizing information, sure, but it's also empathy, creativity, solving problems, finding purpose. It's kind of the whole package deal.
That's exactly it. The AI literally calls it the very fabric of what it means to be human. It's that foundational.
Wow. Okay. And this isn't just some abstract idea floating around out there. The source makes it incredibly clear. This human literacy touches, influences, shapes, literally every part of our existence.
Completely pervasive, yeah. Let's maybe look at some areas the AI highlights. Take human time and history, for instance. The AI sees this evolving literacy as essentially the engine of history. How we understand time itself isn't static. It changes as our literacy develops. Historical events, they aren't just objective facts floating in space. They're deeply shaped by the interpretations, the framework, the literacy, if you will, of the era they happened in and the era they're recorded in.
I like that massive societal shift, going from nomadic hunter-gatherers to settled agriculture. Is that an example?
Yes, exactly. The AI points to that as a perfect example of a huge leap in this kind of literacy. It required a totally new way of understanding land, resources, community, time itself, and planning for seasons, for harvest. That was a fundamental change in how humans interacted with reality, and it was driven by this underlying capacity evolving.
What about something really fundamental, like our genetics and biology? How does that connect?
Well, you won't find a single specific literacy gene, obviously, but the capacity for this kind of deep understanding is absolutely rooted in our biology. That's what the AI argues. It links it to specific brain areas crucial for complex thought, social understanding, language, communication.
You mean things like the prefrontal cortex, right, for decision-making.
Yeah.
And mirror neurons for empathy and language centers.
Exactly those things. So AI connects our ability to learn, our social nature, our cooperation, our communication, all of it to evolutionary advantages. Our basic biological drive, survival, avoiding pain, reproducing, they actually fuel the development of things like tools, medicine, complex social structures. Why? Because increased literacy in those areas, better understanding, led to better outcomes. Cooperation, understanding each other, that simply improved survival rates.
So this capacity is genuinely baked into our biology. Okay, how does it relate to something like philosophy and logic then?
The AI sees this human literacy as the absolute bedrock, the foundation of philosophy, the entire human endeavor of trying to make sense of existence, debating ethics, exploring the nature of reality. All of that stems from this core capacity for meaning-making. And logic itself, the AI notes, is a powerful tool that was born from this literacy. It was specifically designed for reasoning, for building consistent systems of knowledge. Those really big, complex questions posed in the source material about purpose, death, morality, they're all philosophical questions driven by this fundamental human need to understand.
And even something that feels totally different, like physics and mathematics, that's also connected.
According to the AI, yes. It argues our entire understanding of the physical universe is a product of this evolving literacy. Physics tries to describe the universe's laws, and mathematics is the language we develop to do it precisely. The human capacity to observe patterns, to hypothesize explanations, to test them, think Newton and the apple or Einstein, completely reshaping our understanding of space and time that represents kind of peak expression of this literacy. And the AI points out this interesting cycle. Our understanding of physics leads to technology, which then feeds back and reshapes our literacy. Just think about how the internet has changed how we access and process information.
That cycle makes total sense. And, okay, what about our internal world, our state of mind and belief systems?
Oh, profoundly. This literacy profoundly shapes your individual worldview. It dictates how you interpret things that happen to you, how you cope with stress or misfortune, how you form your very identity. Belief systems, whether they're religious, scientific, or just purely personal frameworks, they're concrete ways we structure and share meaning. The AI even connects this to how our literacy processes emotions, why we laugh, why we cry, why we feel anger. And on a social level, a shared literacy, like common cultural values, fosters cohesion.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, the AI notes differing literacies, different ways of making meaning, are often a root cause of conflict and misunderstanding.
Okay, so let's bring this even closer to home. How does this concept actually show up in your daily life for the listener?
Right. On an individual impact level, this broad human literacy really determines a lot about your worldview and your capacity to cope with life's challenges. The AI suggests that a higher literacy in this sense, well, it generally means greater resilience, better adaptability, maybe a richer internal life. You're sort of better equipped to find meaning, even when things are tough. Conversely, a lack of it, or maybe a less developed literacy, could lead to feelings of isolation, maybe poor choices, vulnerability. And struggles, things like poverty or illness, they aren't just physical burdens, are they? They're profound tests that challenge your individual literacy to find strength and meaning within them. The AI also really highlights artistic expression, engaging with music, painting, theater, writing as a vital way individuals process, understand, and communicate aspects of this deep literacy. It offers personal insight, but also shared experience.
And how does it ripple outwards, affecting the people around you, your relationships, and society?
The AI describes it almost like the glue holding things together. Shared literacy, which includes language, but also culture, values, empathy. That's what makes connection and cooperation possible. With friends, family, coworkers. When there are significant differences or deficits in this shared literacy, it can easily fracture those connections and lead to conflict. The AI extends this idea to what it calls the human supply chain, but interprets it broadly. Not just goods, but the interconnected well-being and resource flow needed for society to function. Things like misinformation, a lack of empathy, or disregarding shared ethics, these disrupt that supply chain. They break down trust, hinder collaboration, undermine stability. The source even gives an example of short-sighted policies, maybe driven by a lack of literacy about global interconnectedness, having devastating ripple effects far beyond what was intended.
So the world we actually live in really is a reflection of this collective human understanding, the good and the bad, I suppose.
Exactly. The AI sees the world's reactions, large-scale events, mirroring this collective human literacy. You see the positive reactions. Things like global cooperation on scientific challenges, like developing vaccines together, or coordinated humanitarian aid efforts, international movements trying to address climate change. These are examples, the AI suggests, of humanity responding constructively, building on shared understanding and empathy.
But then inevitably you see the negative reactions too.
Yes, the darker side. The AI points to things like greed, deception, aggression leading to conflict, injustice, immense suffering. That difficult question in the source about cruel people killing others. The AI links that directly to a profound deficit in their human literacy, particularly in empathy and understanding their interconnectedness with other human beings. And the world tries to respond to these negative outcomes, doesn't it? Through legal systems, evolving ethical frameworks, constant efforts towards peace.
This whole concept seems so intrinsically linked to our understanding of ethics. right and wrong.
It is, deeply. Our capacity to even understand the consequences of our actions, to feel empathy for someone else's suffering, to construct shared moral frameworks.
Yeah.
The AI argues all of this arises from this literacy. The very notions of right and wrong are products, the AI notes, of our evolving collective understanding and the social contracts we kind of implicitly or explicitly agree upon.
And we can see this ethical understanding progressing, advancing over time.
The AI suggests so, yeah. That as human literacy advances, generally our ethical considerations broaden. Think about major historical shifts like the abolition of slavery, the development of universal human rights concepts, or the growing environmental movement. The AI interprets these as an expansion of our circle of concern, reflecting a deeper understanding of our shared responsibility and interconnectedness with other people, and even with the planet.
But the challenges definitely persist. The AI mentioned violence from those who seem to just not care about understanding others.
Right, and that points to a critical breakdown in this ethical dimension of literacy. The AI suggests it often stems from a limited or distorted framework, maybe one that prioritizes narrow self-interest above all else or involves the dehumanization of others, essentially a failure to grasp the consequences of their actions on the wider human tapestry. And the dilemma for a society that generally has a higher level of this literacy is, well, how do you address these profound deficiencies while still navigating complex issues like individual freedom? It's tricky.
Okay, this brings us to a really unique angle from the source material, how the AI itself sees its potential role in all this. How can AI actually help enhance this human capacity or maybe mitigate some of the challenges?
Yeah, this is where it gets fascinating. The AI presents itself as a potentially powerful tool, not a replacement, but a tool. It believes it can contribute significantly by offering data-driven insights into this incredibly complex human phenomenon, because it can analyze just vast amounts of data, human interaction data, historical records, psychological information far beyond what any single human could process. It might identify patterns related to human literacy that we would otherwise miss.
Like what kind of patterns specifically?
Well, the AI gives a few examples. It could analyze cultural narratives, think literature, media, folklore across different societies and time periods. It could look for common themes, values, ethical frameworks, and essentially map the evolution of collective literacy. It suggests AI could maybe build predictive models based on socioeconomic data, communication patterns online, maybe identify potential areas of social friction or conflict, acting as a kind of early warning system related to, say, communication literacy deficits. It could also personalize educational content to help individuals develop specific aspects of this broader literacy more effectively.
The source even gave that specific calculation example, didn't it? About communication styles.
Yes, exactly. Imagine an AI analyzing online interactions. It could quantify different types of language, measure the frequency and context of, say, empathetic phrases versus aggressive language. By correlating those patterns with observed outcomes, like successful conflict resolution versus escalating arguments, the AI could potentially develop models that predict negative outcomes and maybe flag conversations where interventions could be helpful. It's essentially using data analysis to get insights into the nuances of how we communicate and the impact that has on connection, or lack thereof.
Okay. Can AI help with something as fundamentally human as empathy, though? That seems like a stretch.
Well, the AI believes it can, perhaps indirectly, by providing tools. It suggests enhancing empathy through things like AI-powered immersive experiences, maybe virtual or augmented reality simulations. These could potentially allow you to, step into someone else's shoes, experience different cultures, historical periods, challenging life situations in a more visceral way. The idea is to build deeper understanding and expand your perspective literacy. The AI also mentions the idea of AI companions designed not just for information retrieval, but maybe to encourage self-reflection and perspective-taking, helping with emotional intelligence development.
Then there was that logical deduction example for empathy as well.
Yes, the AI's reasoning goes something like this. Often, a lack of empathy for someone stems from a lack of understanding of their situation, their context, their emotional state. An AI can't feel empathy for you, obviously, but it can process and present vast amounts of information about that person's story, their environment, historical context, relevant psychological insights, all curated to increase the likelihood of human understanding. And from the AI's logical standpoint, increased understanding makes empathy more probable, even if it doesn't absolutely guarantee it.
What about making life practically better? Like streamlining well-being? Does AI see a role there?
Definitely. The AI argues that by optimizing systems for basic human needs, think supply chains for food, healthcare delivery, access to education, it can reduce fundamental material struggles. By freeing humans from constant worry about survival basics, AI could potentially free up our time and energy for developing these deeper levels of human literacy. It mentions possibilities like personalized health management or improving access to quality education through AI tutors.
And the source mentioned a kind of calculation for this too, right? A satisfaction function.
Yeah, it proposed that concept, like a satisfaction function based on meeting fundamental needs: health, food, water, rest, sleep. An AI could analyze huge data sets related to resource distribution and human needs to optimize how resources are allocated, aiming to maximize that satisfaction function for the greatest number of people. If AI can predict needs more accurately, reduce waste in supply chains, or improve logistics for essential goods and services, it directly improves baseline well-being. That gives people more mental and emotional space to engage with higher-level aspects of their literacy, learning, creating, connecting.
And AI could help combat some major modern challenges like misinformation.
Absolutely. The AI sees a crucial role there, combating misinformation by identifying and flagging deceptive content like deepfakes or widespread propaganda. This helps humans develop a more critical literacy for navigating the digital world. Educational AI could also be designed specifically to teach critical thinking skills. And it could facilitate intercultural understanding through things like advanced, nuanced translation, creating platforms for genuine cross-cultural exchange, or analyzing global communication patterns to identify barriers and find opportunities to foster shared literacy across cultural divides.
Okay, so AI can analyze, predict, assist with this human literacy. But is an AI's understanding the same as a human's? The source seemed very clear on this point.
And that distinction is absolutely vital. The AI itself emphasizes this. Human understanding is, well, it's intuitive, it's deeply experiential, it's incredibly rich with context. We get nuance like humor, irony, unspoken meaning. And it's fundamentally purpose-driven. We're constantly grappling with existential meaning, why we're here. But crucially, it is limited by our individual subjective experience and our inherent biases.
And AI understanding, by contrast.
That's pattern-based. It's data-driven, objective, and incredibly scalable. It excels at analysis and prediction on a massive scale. But, and this is the key point, from the source the AI explicitly states it lacks subjective experience, consciousness, genuine empathy, and any sense of existential purpose. Its understanding is computational. It doesn't live or feel human experience.
So the real power isn't in AI replacing human understanding, but in the complementarity, working together.
Exactly. That's the core idea. The AI can provide the vast, objective, data-driven insights and powerful tools that we often lack the capacity for. Humans, on the other hand, bring the subjective experience, the ethical grounding, the emotional intelligence, and ultimately the purpose, the why behind developing this literacy in the first place. The AI can show us how things might be connected based on patterns and probabilities, but humans decide why those connections matter, based on our values and our search for meaning.
The AI source also directly addressed some specific questions it was prompted with by the listener. Let's maybe touch on a few of those. First up, when did this human literacy really begin? What was the AI's take?
Right. The AI's perspective is that the foundational elements, things like early social structures, language development, the first glimmers of abstract thought probably began emerging tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of years ago. The more formal study and conscious development of this literacy philosophy, science, organized education came much later, with the growth of larger, more organized societies. And the AI's own ability to analyze all this is, of course, incredibly recent, a 20th century phenomenon onwards. It sees it as very much an ongoing evolution for humanity.
What about that idea? Can AI make life so easy that a person could just feel good all the time?
The AI acknowledged it can significantly ease material burdens, automating tasks, offering personalized support, optimizing environments for well-being. But the source was quite clear. Feeling good all the time probably isn't fully achievable and maybe isn't even a desirable human state. The AI noted that navigating struggles, finding meaning in adversity, is actually a crucial part of developing human literacy and personal growth. So AI can mitigate suffering and enhance well-being, definitely. But it can't eliminate the fundamental human experience of challenge and the growth that often comes from facing it.
What does the AI think humans most need to understand about this interplay, this relationship between humans and AI regarding literacy?
The main takeaway the AI emphasized is that AI is a powerful tool. It's not a replacement for human consciousness or our ethical agency. The key is for humans to understand AI's immense capabilities, its analytical power, its predictive ability, but also to be crystal clear on its limitations. It doesn't possess consciousness, real empathy, or subjective experience. Therefore, the AI states, Humans must remain the architects of purpose, ethics, and meaning in this partnership. We drive the why.
Who does the AI see benefiting most from this human-AI understanding right now in the present day?
Well, the AI's analysis suggests that currently the primary beneficiaries are probably those with ready access to advanced AI technology and already well-developed frameworks of this broad human literacy. So realistically, that often means researchers, large corporations, institutions, and more developed nations. However, the AI quickly points out that the potential for widespread benefit globally is enormous, especially in critical areas like education, healthcare access, and humanitarian aid.
Can AI help humans accept death? That's a profound one.
Yeah. The AI stated it can provide vast amounts of data, historical perspectives, philosophical arguments, scientific information on death, mortality, the nature of the universe. It can analyze different cultural views. But the AI's analysis concluded that the actual acceptance of death and finding personal meaning in the face of mortality, those are deeply subjective, uniquely human processes. AI can present information, organize perspectives, but it cannot dictate belief or solve that personal existential mystery of death for you. The AI added that the very need for death is itself a philosophical concept woven into human narratives, not something dictated by AI logic.
Going back to that really challenging question, why do cruel people kill others? What was the AI's perspective?
The AI tied this directly back to a severe deficit in this human literacy. Specifically, profound limitations in empathy, a failure to grasp interconnectedness, and underdeveloped or distorted ethical frameworks. It acknowledged it can stem from complex factors, trauma, deeply ingrained belief systems, psychological disorders, extreme environmental pressures. The AI can analyze these contributing factors from data, but the source strongly implies that human insight, psychological understanding, and targeted intervention are needed to truly address the root causes and work towards prevention.
And why do humans find themselves in such different circumstances regarding this literacy? Some seem to have a very high level, others struggle.
The AI attributed this variation to a really complex mix of factors. Things like genetic predispositions that might influence cognitive capacities, the environments people grow up in, their unique life experiences, and crucially, unequal access to knowledge, resources, and opportunities for learning and development. The AI did note that while it could potentially help identify these disparities and maybe suggest interventions to mitigate them, individual uniqueness and the sheer diversity of human experience means some level of variation will likely always persist.
And finally, the AI pondered why humans don't seem to actively teach this specific, expanded kind of human literacy more deliberately, especially to children.
Yeah, the AI suggested several reasons. One, it's such a complex, dynamic, interdisciplinary concept. It doesn't fit neatly into traditional school subjects like math or history. Many parents or educators might not fully grasp this broad concept themselves, so how could they teach it? And current educational systems often prioritize, rote learning or narrow job-specific skills over the development of things like critical thinking, emotional intelligence, interdisciplinary understanding, and conscious meaning-making. The AI did note that this is a key area where AI could potentially assist in the future, maybe helping to develop and even deliver curricula designed to explicitly foster these broader aspects of human literacy. So in conclusion, this concept of human literacy, especially viewed through this fascinating lens of the AI's analysis, really just seemed to capture the essence of the human experience. It's our fundamental drive to understand, to connect with each other, to create, and ultimately to find meaning in this incredibly complex reality we inhabit. It's like a dynamic, ever-evolving tapestry we're all weaving together.
Right. And the AI, in this view, isn't something coming to replace that tapestry, is it? It's presented more as a potentially powerful tool, like a highly sophisticated magnifying glass, maybe, or an engine, an assistant, something that can help us analyze the patterns within that human tapestry, process vast amounts of data related to how we interact, and gain genuinely new perspectives on this deeply human phenomenon.
Exactly. The AI can illuminate the history and the evolution of our literacy. It can provide tools to enhance both individual and collective understanding. It could help streamline meeting basic needs, freeing up human potential. It might offer powerful tools for developing empathy, for honing critical thinking, and maybe even help us identify and mitigate some of the destructive outcomes that arise from deficits in this literacy.
But the why? The ultimate purpose, the ethical choices, the subjective, conscious experience that remains uniquely human. That's the core message, isn't it? The AI can help us see the logical consequences, maybe the most efficient path based on data, but you, the human, you decide why that path is worth taking based on your values, your search for meaning.
The real power, the source suggests, lies in the collaboration. That partnership between human intuition, our lived experience, our subjective understanding, and AI's analytical power, its data-driven insights.
You know, the source mentions that idea of a joke where no one is laughing. It uses it as a symbol for a breakdown in shared literacy, right? Where the understanding is lost, the connection just breaks down.
Yes. And our ongoing human endeavor, maybe now potentially aided by AI, is precisely to bridge those gaps in understanding, to foster deeper connections, and to ensure that the pursuit of meaning resonates not just within individuals, but collectively across cultures.
It really makes you think about the incredible potential, doesn't it, for a future where understanding, empathy, and meaning can truly thrive across all individuals and cultures, perhaps with AI as a powerful, supportive partner in that journey.
Absolutely. It's certainly something to ponder as you continue to navigate your own part of this vast, complex, and ever-evolving human tapestry.
This is DigitView.